Today on Lizza, they're small children out of control with violent rage. What did you mean to do? What did you want to do?
I wanted to look down the house.
Why do you have knives in your room?
Because I just want to hurt my mom.
And we'll meet the parents of those troubled kids.
And about 3 years of age when he pulled a knife on a child in the motel swimming pool area out of my purse and ran after this little boy. I knew then we were in deep trouble.
They've been called kids without a conscience, children who don't know the difference between right and wrong, who can't trust, who can't love, and who can't control their violent rage. While other kids their age are, watching Barney or the Power Rangers, these children are committing crimes that become front-page news. These two 12-year-olds, John Duncan and Manuel Sanchez, shot a homeless man more than 18 times and were convicted of first-degree murder. Young Eric Smith from New York may spend the rest of his life in prison for murdering his 4-year-old neighbor by smashing his head with a 26-pound rock. In Atlanta, a 10-year-old boy was convicted of raping a 7-year-old girl. And 3 toddlers in Orlando, Florida, face possible criminal charges for vandalizing a home, leaving behind $15,000 in damages. It's pretty shocking, isn't it? Well, today we're going to be meeting some young children whose behavior is self-destructive, it's dangerous, and it is out of control. Their parents really live in fear of what they might do next, like Regina. Regina is the mother of 8-year-old twins. There's little Ali and Alquan. And Barbara is here also, the mother of 5-year-old daughter, Angel. Thanks to both of you very much for coming on today. Regina, let's start with you. We're going to talk about your boys. And let me just run down the rap sheets for her twins. They've been dubbed Double Trouble and Twin Terrors. These 8-year-old twins, they're from Jersey City. They're backstage right now where they can't hear us. But these two little guys, who look so innocent there, they've already been arrested 4 times for allegedly starting a fire in a house on this street, throwing a brick through a store window, attempting to break into a neighbor's house with tools that they stole from his shed, breaking into a school, and their most recent crime, breaking into a church and causing $30,000 worth of damage.
Broke my heart that these kids are not at home watching Power Rangers or whatever the kids watch on TV, that they're out here breaking into buildings and churches.
At no time did they appear scared or intimidated by the police. Even when they were handcuffed, they thought it was a joke. They smiled.
I don't be messing with them kids. They bad. They like bad kids. They need to be put away.
You can tell the people in that community were confused, they were shocked, and they were very quick to pass judgment, Regina, on your boys. Now, you live with this. It's got to be tough for you, but when I read down the things they have done, can you believe those are your little boys?
No.
When they get arrested, how do they act?
They act like if they wasn't scared and nothing, so not like that.
Is it a joke to them, Regina?
I think so.
Mm-hmm. Even when they were in the handcuffs, they tried to pick the lock. What's your biggest fear for Ali and Alquan?
Their future, where they'll be and what might happen to them.
Are you afraid they might grow up to be criminals?
Yes, I do.
I talked to them, as you know, before we started the show today, and I want to roll a little bit of that interview so you can just hear what they had to say for themselves. Here's Ali and Alquan. Did you break into a church one time? Tell me about that.
Tomorrow.
What happened, Ali?
Kick the window in.
Kick the window in the church? What were you trying to do? Why did you want to do that?
It's so fun.
It was fun? You like to break things?
Sometimes.
Why do you do it?
For fun.
Fun. You threw a rock through the window or what?
You kicked it in.
You kicked it in. And then what'd you do?
You got into the little window near the bathroom.
What'd you do there?
Scatter around papers.
Scattered papers. Why? I want you to tell me about burning the house down one time. Did you do that? Tell me about that.
The little boy had 5 matches, and then he lit them up in the pot and put them in there with wine. He put it in a wine bottle with gasoline.
I've asked Ali and Alquan to come on out now. Hi, guys. How you doing?
Hi.
Do you know why you're here today? You know what we're talking about? What? You tell me.
Just to talk about the stuff he did.
Stuff that you did. Why did you do it? Why do you get in trouble so much?
He made plans.
What do you say?
He just picked the map out of the thing, then he had to do it.
So it's always the other guy. All right, thanks you guys for coming out. I want you all to meet Barbara. Barbara is the mom of this 5-year-old little girl named Angel. Angel's backstage. She is so beautiful. She also can't hear us now. She's just back in the playroom. And she does look like a sweet, innocent little girl. But Angel sleeps with an alarm on her door at night because her mom is afraid of what she'll do if she's left unguarded, that she'll get up, get out of her room, and that she might hurt somebody. And this is not just a fear, Barbara, this is a very real concern. What are some of the things that Angel has done?
Mostly she's hurt herself.
Like, how does she do that?
Well, like in a fit of rage, she pulled out her 2 bottom teeth.
Has she cut herself or?
She'll scratch herself until she bleeds. She'll bite her lip until it's red and bleeding.
And you told me that one time she sat in a tub of scalding water.
Herself. She bathes herself, and I went to check on her. And I went in there, and her body was all red and dangerous.
And why did she say she had done that?
She said that she liked it.
Not only that, but this little 5-year-old girl actually burned down her family's house in January. And according to her mom, Barbara says that she really didn't show any signs of feeling sorry for destroying the family home. When I talked to Angel's therapist, her therapist was in the room, and in fact, I want everyone to know that the therapists have told us that there's nothing that we're doing today that's going to harm them, because we want to be very cautious and very respectful of their treatment and of their tender years. But she said she thought Angel was very honest in her interview with me, and I want to share some of that with you now. What happened to your teeth?
Well, I was having a fit in the house, and Mama came in my room and sat me down in the garage, and I had a fit out there, and I was biting on my shirt, and my teeth came out.
When you say you were having a fit, what does that mean? What do you do when you have a fit?
I get mad at my mom
Why are you mad at your mom, Angel?
because sometimes I get mad at her that she sits me on the garage.
Have you ever hurt your sister? What have you done to her, Angel?
I spanked her with a belt
You spanked your sister with a belt? Why?
because I was a little girl.
You were a mean little girl. Angel, do you remember starting a fire at your house?
Yes.
Why did you do that?
Because I want to make my mom mad.
You wanted to make your mom mad. I bet she was mad. How did you feel when she got mad?
I felt happy.
You felt happier. How did you burn down the house? What did you do?
Well, most, was in the other room and I was playing with the lighter. And I came in the other room and I hid it behind the couch.
What did you want to do?
I wanted to burn down the house.
You did want the house to burn down. Are you sorry about that, Angel?
Yes.
Do you think you're a mean little girl? What makes you mean?
I wanted to be that way.
You want to be that way?
Yes.
And here is Angel. Angel, you did a really good job. You were a very good girl while you were talking with me. Thank you for that. I look at you, Barbara, and I mean, look at her. She's totally charming, so compliant. You're there with your arm around her. How do you? It's such a contrast to the things that she's done. How do you know she's not going to have a fit of rage today during the show?
I don't know. You don't know. She can be charming and loving like she is right now. And just like that.
While other parents are worried about how to discipline their children, you're worried about getting through the day safely without this one harming your biological child, who's 2. You're pregnant now with another one, and you also have Angel's older sister, Crystal, that she talked about, that she's also harmed. It's scary.
She plays together with her sister very well, the 2-year-old, but I can't turn my back on the 2 of them playing. And when I do, I regret it because it's usually severe.
You know, these are the littlest victims in our society. They really are. And there's a reason for this behavior. We're going to talk about Angel's abusive early childhood with her biological parents that caused a lot of the anger when we come back. And later in the show, we'll be talking about a controversial therapy for violent and out-of-control children that some people call child abuse. What do you think? Watch this.
Tell her you want to hurt her. Louder.
That little guy was 5-year-old James. You're going to meet him next. I talked to him earlier. Here's what he had to say. When you have the knives in your room, what do you plan to do with them?
Trying to kill my mom.
You would want to kill your mom? How frightening is that, to hear a little 5-year-old with that much anger? Kids without a conscience. That's the focus of today's Lizza. Thanks for joining us today. We're talking about kids in crisis today, young children without a conscience for their violent and destructive behavior, children who really can't seem to distinguish right from wrong. We've met 8-year-old twins who've been arrested 4 times for arson and vandalism, and 5-year-old Angel, who burned down her family's home. And I'd like for you now to meet Laura. Her 5-year-old son, James, has an obsession with knives and weapons. And that's James backstage again. He's there where he can't hear us right now. He's such a beautiful little boy. When did you first notice that he was having trouble, that something was wrong?
James started out with colic at 5.5 months and chronic ear infections. And he was fairly normal from a year to 2 years. And about 3 years of age when he pulled a knife on a child in a motel swimming pool area out of my purse and ran after this little boy. I knew then we were in deep trouble.
And you talk about he was very sick as a little boy. I mean, is that why you think he's having problems, or where did this obsession come from?
We're really not sure where the obsession came from, although the chronic pain that the child was in his first year of life has a lot to do with the fact that he did not bond with either one of his parents.
So there wasn't that basic having his needs met, or feeling that he had a trust for the world. And
yeah, James was not a cuddly baby at all.
He's an expressive little boy. He's very bright, and he speaks his mind.
Yes, he did. As you will see, let me roll some tape of our interview backstage. I heard that sometimes you kept knives in your room. Yeah? Why do you have knives in your room?
Because I just want to hurt my mom.
You want to hurt your mom with a knife? Why?
Because
How do you feel about your mom?
nah,
You're mad at her. What makes you mad at her, James?
when she holds me, I like it.
Do you love your mom? You do?
Ah,
Then why don't you like it when she holds you?
because it's not fair to me.
It's not fair to you. Does it hurt you? Why isn't it fair to you?
So when my mom holds me, she holds me too tight.
When you have the knives in your room, what do you plan to do with them?
Trying to kill my mom.
You would want to kill your mom? Have you ever hurt her? If you love your mom, why do you want to kill her? Why do you want to hurt mom?
Because
Because you're angry because of the pain?
yeah,
When you were a baby?
yeah.
Tell me about that. What happened when you were a baby?
I stopped the knife. I heard her screaming.
Wow. And you cried a lot? Yeah. So it was hard. It was hard for mommy too, I bet. Where do you find knives? Because I know your mom put them away, didn't she? Where did you look for them?
I know where they are.
You have a sister named Heather? And what did you do to her?
Just so I had her at the window.
Why did you do that?
Because I just did it.
Do you love Heather? James is out here now with his mom. I have to tell you, Laura, it's really uncomfortable almost for me to speak so candidly in front of these children, and the events in their lives are so dramatic. And yet I know that what they've been through with therapy and the crimes that they've committed and the consequences of that, they've had a tough life. You were so frightened that you had alarms put on the doors? We had bells and a little can on James's door at night so that if he comes out, we are walking by the jingle on the door and it makes us a little safer. I can't imagine living with that kind of fear in your house and that kind of heartbreak that your little boy can turn into a monster like that. Yeah. It gets really intense with James at times. James is not at home right now? No, he isn't. I placed him in a residential care facility in July of '94. I would think for you and also for you, Barbara, that you must get criticism from other parents who look at you and who think, well, they can't handle their children, they're being too tough on them.
Drill
Yeah.
sergeant. We
Yeah.
call it drill sergeant moms
Really.
because we seem to be irritable at our children, and other people around us don't understand where the irritability comes from.
Your life is different. The challenges are far greater than most parents can even imagine. You did a great job, James. You're out here with Mom. And you're okay. Thank you very much. You did a really good job, buddy. Later on in the show, you're going to meet another mom whose fear was that her child would grow up to be the next Charles Manson. And that led her to try a controversial therapy that she says saved both of them. Got a lot more to talk about that. Stay close. We're back. We're talking about very young children who seem to really have no remorse, no conscience for crimes that they commit. And these are some major crimes: arson, vandalism, self-mutilation. We've talked about kids attacking the other siblings in the home. You are brave women who certainly have your hands full, and I know that it takes a lot of courage to talk about this because it's so often misunderstood. I would think that the criticism would be, well, can't you control your child? What kind of a mother are you? Is that right? Yes. That's what you get.
Actually, I get a lot of can't you control yourself.
But you get a lot of praise, too, because... Why can't you control? What does that mean? Why can't you control
Because
yourself?
often people see frustrated parents, and they blame it on the parent instead of understanding the situation.
Let's look at your case is different because you're dealing with children who are not genetically linked to you, and you got them when they were already somewhat through their infant years. How old was Angel when you got her?
Just before 3,
Okay.
and her sister was 6.
Well, just tell to start off how the girls were named.
Well, they're named after drugs. Angel for Angel Dust, and Crystal.
For crystal meth.
And they have a brother. His name's Rocky. He's been placed separately. And they had another baby that his name has been changed, but it was Lucy for LSD. No. Because the parents are druggies. And Angel has mild alcohol syndrome as well.
Was she abused as a child?
Yes. And neglected. And she was abused before she was born. It's part of Angel's problem. You know, with the drugs, she was born positive to cocaine and barbiturates. She was born without a heartbeat. And she came to school with a lot of pain.
Did you know the kinds of problems you would inherit when you adopted the girls?
I knew that they had problems. I didn't understand that they had attachment this severe and that would be the major issue of their life.
Let me remind the audience at home that, once again, the young guests are backstage. They're not part of this discussion. Again, their lives are difficult enough, and we are trying to be sensitive with the guidance that we're getting from their therapist here today as to when it's okay to have them involved. Regina, at one point in your life, you personally had a drug problem.
Yeah, 3 years ago. And I was on a methadone clinic for like 2.5 years ago.
Were your boys aware of your problems,
No.
and do you think that affected their behavior?
No, they didn't even know that. They didn't know that I was on drugs or that I was using drugs. I never used drugs around them. And no, they didn't. I won't say that. No, that wasn't closer to their problems. So.
Regina, do you punish your children, and if so, how do you punish them after this?
But they have been kept in the house. They have their games taken away from them. They cannot go outside and play, and they have got a beating. It seems as if.
Yeah, but when you have, like, for instance, with your son James, when you have a little kid who goes after a puppy with a knife, who, you know, and you're talking children whose siblings have to wear helmets so that their brother or sister can't hurt them. I mean, how can you punish a child like that? What do?
Restrain them the best you can.
Yes, sir, your question.
Yes, Barbara, do you ever regret adopting Angel?
That's tough to say. Angel's a very lovable little girl. You saw that side of her. There's a big part of her that you just want to hold on. And there's another part of her that you just don't like. I believe that Angel can be fixed, and I love that part of her. So I can't quit.
I think that all children can learn to love and are worth investing in, and I hope that we'll be able to get that message across today. I mean, these are the future. If we don't fix the kids or help them fix themselves, we don't have a prayer. It's some of the loftier goals that we hold for our globe.
When we come back, you're going to meet another woman, and we told you about her. This is the lady whose biggest fear in her life is that her child would grow up to be a serial killer or a career criminal. We'll talk about that and have more of your questions as soon as we come back. We're talking today about very young, very violent kids without a conscience. And joining us now is Linda and her 12-year-old son, Ty. Linda adopted Ty when he was 4. She thought he was just the perfect little boy, but after that first year, Linda discovered there was a dark side to her little blonde angel. Thanks, both of you, for being here. What was it that you noticed about Ty? What changed?
Ty's behavior for the first year that he was with us was really extraordinary. He was very compliant, very agreeable. I thought he was a great, precocious kid. And my husband would say things like, he's very weird. And it was something that I really didn't want to see. I just thought we were lucky. We managed to have this wonderful child placed in our home. And this went on for about a year, and I was really buying into the honeymoon with him. And when he was in first grade, I went to my first parent-teacher conference. And I was very excited because he was such a good kid at home. I thought, I'm going to get these rave reviews. It's really going to be fun. It's going to be a mom charge. And I sat down, and the teacher started describing heinous behaviors. A child who would systematically sabotage the schoolwork of other children, who would be standing in the lunch line and for no reason turn around and kick the child behind him in the stomach. A child who had to be physically restrained by 3 teachers at one point because he was just trying to leave the school premises. He was out of control. And I had never been informed of this at all. And she was going on, and I sat there in shock, and I said, no, I'm Ty Mansfield's mother.
You must have made a mistake
Well,
here.
I truly thought she was talking about another child. And she said, no, I'm talking about Ty Mansfield.
Do you remember what you were like, Ty? Is she exaggerating at all?
No, I remember, I was standing in line coming from recess, and there was a girl behind me, and I thought she was really bugging me. She was like calling somebody names, and I thought she was talking to me, and I got really, really mad, but she wasn't even talking to me, so I turned around and punched her in the stomach, and I got in big trouble, and I tried to run away from school, and the custodians had to come and bring me to the office, kicking and screaming. They called Mom, and she had to come pick me up and bring me home.
At home, I mean, you never burned down the house or got out knives after the family or anything, but you could feel his anger. What was it like?
He could hold it together at home because he used school as his release valve. At home, he would choreograph amazing control battles. He knew how to push buttons. Ty had a thing about food. He would eat and eat and eat all the time. Part of this, I'm sure, had to do with the fact that he was hungry a lot of the time in his early years. And I would say, Ty, whenever you want food, just ask for food. Not a problem. And I would still find orange peels, banana peels under his bed. And I thought, okay, loosen the rules. Ty, whenever you want food, you can take food. Just eat it in the kitchen. I would find bread crusts, grape stems under his bed. He would hoard food. And then when confronted with that, he would say, I didn't do it.
But now, Ty, you have said that you were very angry at your mom, that a lot of this was about that issue. What were you so angry with her about?
Well, she took me away from my mom. My birth mom, she gave me birth. She didn't take very good care of me, but she was still my mom.
And you blamed your adoptive mom for it.
Because she took me away.
Part of what went on with this particular case was this therapy that we've talked about, holding therapy. And it can be very intense. What was it like for you, Ty?
I didn't like it at all. But if I had to do it again, if I still had a problem, I would do it, even if I didn't like it. I would still go through with it to just get all the anger out.
Let me show you just a little snippet of how this holding therapy works. I think you saw earlier where there's someone who is physically restraining the child, holding the child down while the child vents sometimes very, very violent anger and in this particular case, at the mother. This is how it's used on James, the little 5-year-old that you met earlier. Watch.
Tell her you want to hurt her. Louder. Louder.
Is that what it was like with you, Ty?
I screamed and yelled, but sometimes I get really mad and kick the cushions off the couch and hit the camera.
Let's talk some more about Ty's experience with holding therapy, and I promise I will get to some of your questions. We'll be right back. Do you spend... We just met Ty, who told me during the commercial break that you and your mom looked at James, our guest today, the little boy who has the obsession with the weapons, who had a permanent scowl on his face, very angry, and you saw yourself there, Ty.
Mm-hmm. When I was little, I just walked around with that face. I couldn't change it. When I smiled, it was just a fake smile.
Just mad at the world all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the turning point for you?
Probably after I had holding therapy. I just began to feel happier.
I want to clarify a point that I made about the holding therapy. I think I mistakenly said that the children are restrained. They're held. They're not restrained unless they're going to hurt the therapist or someone else in the room. But some people are uncomfortable with it, Linda, and say that it seems abusive. You went through an awful lot of traditional therapy, tried many treatments, and this was like a last resort.
It was. Out of sheer desperation, I called an adoption support group, and I've been actually carrying around that phone number for years, thinking, I don't need it, I'm tough, I can be a great mom. And I finally called and began describing his behaviors to the person at the other end of the phone, and she said, this sounds like attachment disorder. And I had never heard the phrase before. The therapist that we had seen knew nothing about attachment disorder, and when I found out that his behaviors were typical of the problem, then I pursued it with a vengeance.
Okay, tell us what that means in layman's terms. That there was no bonding with the primary caregiver?
Precisely. There's a very fundamental cycle that's repeated over and over and over again during an infant's life. An infant has a basic need. The need is expressed through rage. Anyone who has ever seen a baby crying knows that that's a rage reaction. Under normal circumstances, the rage is gratified. It teaches the child to trust. The infant gets the message that they have to give up control of their lives if they're going to survive. When there's a break in the cycle, and that infant's need is not gratified, he never learns to trust and believes he must control his life and the lives of everyone around him, or he'll die.
It seems so basic, doesn't it? This became such a pivotal point in Linda's life that she wrote a book, which is loosely based on Ty's experience, called Don't Touch My Heart. Very, very compelling reading. This is Dr. Henry Paul, who's a psychiatrist who specializes in child anger, and I want to bring you up to the panel next. But before we go to break, you heard about this holding therapy. Several of our moms talk about it. Now, what's your position?
I think what Linda said really brings all these discussions right to the point. Linda felt desperate, and holding therapy is considered a very controversial form of therapy. But when people are desperate, when everything else has failed, and when they feel they have no inner resources left, it's very understandable to me that you would go to holding therapy, although it's controversial. And it is controversial. Mainstream medicine, mainstream child psychiatry doesn't know much about it. There's very, very little written about it. But look at help. So I'm not one to say that it doesn't work. We'd like to know more about it. We'd like more research on it. We hope there's studies on it that can show that in these extreme cases, where you are also desperate, that holding therapy is something that all therapists should know about.
When we come back, then let's talk in general about this anger and the rage. And is there such thing as a bad seed? We'll be right back.
What'll I wear?
I have asked Dr. Henry Paul to join us on stage. He's a psychiatrist and expert in this area of child anger and author of the book When Kids Are Mad, Not Bad. Is there such thing as just a bad kid?
There's such a thing as kids doing bad things, but when you get to the bad seed question, which is asked by many people, I could tell you wholeheartedly that there hasn't been one study of genetics, of biochemistry, or physiology that shows that any child that's born has a bad seed.
So criminals are not born, but what happens if kids like this today don't get the help they need? Will they become violent adults?
Well, some of these kids are already violent, so we would expect that they would become violent adults if they don't get the help. It would just be a continuation of their present state, but there's statistical studies out that show that in prison, a very, very high percentage of the people who are incarcerated probably have pretty severe problems with attachment or traumas of some sort in their early childhood.
Linda, did you think that that was going to be the future for your little boy, worst case?
That's what I was afraid of, because he was so rage-filled and he was so calculating in the way he would release that rage in small bits that, yes, I was afraid. And he would look at me with the most terrifying expression. And that would really frighten me. And I consider myself a relatively stable human being, and he scared me.
I want to give parents some tips on looking at anger within themselves and how to recognize if your child might have a problem. We'll be right back. If you'd like to be our studio guest, Dr. Paul, we've talked about some very extreme cases of destructive kids. What's the difference between that kind of anger and normal childhood anger?
Well, the anger that we've been talking about on this show is, as I said, rare and extreme, and it really is destructive. But every child, every day, experiences normal anger because it's a normal response to a feeling of helplessness that all children have. As a matter of fact, if children don't show anger, it's a bigger source of a bigger problem, I think, than children who show anger. Anger is absolutely normal, essential. It's the way children let us know they need our help in some way.
How they learn to cope and learn the rules and learn to play by the rules.
So people who are watching shouldn't think that anger, by definition, is a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's a normal thing.
It does seem like, though, that we are, as a society, producing more children who are not having a safe and nurturing childhood, who are more prone to have violent tendencies.
There's an epidemic. There's like a virus of violence going on in society, and most people think it has to do in some way with the early bonding experience. The most efficient programs approach the issue of parenting, through parenting education, early schools for parents, and all the epidemic problems that feed into this nurturing issue.
You say anger is normal, but if your child is being aggressive to people or pets, if your child is destroying property, if your child is lying and stealing or is in serious violations of the rules, then you've got a problem. And as a parent, check your own anger. If you ever feel like hurting your angry child, or if you can't locate the source, as you say in your book, of your child's anger, then you should seek professional help. A lot of good tips in your book.
We should also realize that anger in children makes parents feel helpless, and anger in response. Thus, it often looks contagious.
We'll be right back.
Johnny the Sugar King.
To the moms, we thank you. I'm very grateful to you for sharing your stories, and I wish you continued success as you try to find some peace in your household with your children who are so worthy of the attention and the love that you give them. Thanks for your expertise, Dr. Paul. Ty, good going, buddy. And to the young children who joined us today, thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.